just when the royal drama finally seemed to settle down, a shocking new revelation as this complex story started to unfold. Close insiders say Prince Harry was left. A major secret that people only whispered about is allegedly out in the open. And why exactly could this single moment change everything we thought we knew? This is when Hollywood's golden gates quietly closed. The shift began. The setting was exclusive Santa Barbara, where the famous 1805 Live benefit. Industry insiders saw the event as an exclusive meeting ground for the truly powerful. An invitation carried massive weight, signaling you belonged. But known around Hollywood for decades as a highly respected actor, director and producer Kevin Costner has built his entire reputation around true authenticity. Rarely one for petty public feuds or dramatic statements. His words on this occasion, he plainly explained that Meghan Markle would no longer be invited to future elite gatherings. For those present, the remark felt less like a casual decision and much more like a hard. Conversations froze instantly and stunned looks drifted quietly all across the room. In elite Hollywood circles where deep diplomacy and careful phrasing completely dominate, blunt statements like this almost never happen without deep underlying reasons. And the real significance here was not just about a simple guest list. The 18 top producers, powerful executives, and major investors gathered there. Not just being welcomed into that exclusive environment carried immense prestige and quiet. For several years, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have tried hard to build up their presence. They moved to Montecito, California, hoping close proximity to media power would open permanently. But Kevin Costner's cold decision strongly hinted that something deep inside in Hollywood, personal relationships completely dictate opportunity and doors slide shut. For several industry insiders, the pointed remarks suggested the Sussex brand, which was once viewed as a powerful blend of royal prestige and Hollywood ambition. At the actual event, Prince Harry still walked up on stage, smiling broadly as flashing cameras captured polite applause and handshakes. Beneath the applause, a very real shift seemed to ripple through powerful circles. While Kevin Costner spoke and Prince Harry forced a smile for cameras, insiders sensed, has the once unstoppable Sussex brand actually begun losing quiet support? Beneath that loud applause, a very different story unfolds. As the quiet realization of Kevin Costner's pointed remarks began to ripple through it, the setting was the major 1805 Live benefit in Santa Barbara. An event. Flashing cameras captured the warm, familiar glow of a high-profile charity gathering. Dressed in elegant evening attire, high society guests arrived, and polite conversations drifted across the massive seaside estate. To anyone watching the edited official footage, the evening seemed like just another high. Yet for the people who were actually present that night, the memory carried a very different tone. Eyewitnesses later recalled that something about the atmosphere felt unusually cold. It wasn't hostile or openly confrontational, but it was noticeably distant in rooms where reputation and power move through tiny, subtle gestures, body language. And on that particular evening, many guests noticed the signals. When Prince Harry stepped up onto the stage to accept his award, the entire moment, for viewers watching the coverage later, the scene suggested complete warmth and celebration. Yet those observing from deep within the room noticed that close interactions around several key industry insiders described Kevin Costner as looking unusually guarded, rather than showing the easy, welcoming warmth people normally expect from a host at these. His brief interactions with Meghan Markle stayed incredibly tense and controlled. No big scene. Nobody raised their voice and there were zero public arguments. Honestly, it was that, in the highly polished world of Hollywood, elite, real tension almost never looks like a conversation that simply never gets started, a cold greeting that is over. Many guests believed that cold shoulder was entirely intentional, while others whispered. According to several well-connected industry sources, some very tense behind the scenes. Some industry insiders even speculated that Kevin Costner felt immense pressure from some incredibly powerful talent agencies who wanted to make sure the Duke but anyone who actually knows anything about Costner's long, stubborn career found that over several decades he had carefully built a massive reputation for being fiercely throughout the entire charity event. That cold, quiet separation remained impossible. Still, those who had closely followed Kevin Costner's decades of doing things his own way, why on earth would a major star known for maintaining strict control over his life? Well, a single quiet remark was about to slip out, one that would soon send massive... You see that thick, heavy tension hanging over the Santa Barbara charity gala was in the dramatic days that followed. Things took a chaotic turn as a highly controversial comment supposedly made what had first looked like simple, awkward social distancing at a party was suddenly according to several explosive new reports quietly making the rounds among top Hollywood. Costner had supposedly brought up Meghan Markle's name in direct connection with the dark. The alleged comparison was quick, but the fallout was instant and incredibly tense. After all the horrific scandals surrounding the late financier had already dealt, Prince Andrew's close relationship with Epstein had triggered years of relentless media scrutiny. That endless controversy ultimately left Andrew with no choice but to step down from leaked photographs and court documents, along with devastating victim testimonies, had already left a permanent, ugly stain. With that toxic history in mind, even the absolute smallest hint linking yet for quite a few years now, weird random rumours involving Meghan Markle had occasionally these bizarre claims usually buried in obscure online chat rooms and fringe forums without a shred of real evidence or any respected public figures giving them the time of day. But the entire playing field shifted instantly the moment an incredibly respected A. Keep in mind, Kevin Costner is not some cheap tabloid writer or a nameless troll. This is an Oscar-winning star and highly influential director with decades of class. Those specific qualities meant that any words he chose to speak carried an immense amount, and the moment his alleged comment began to spread, the reaction was fast and furious. Panicked conversations instantly broke out among top-tier studio executives. Even a tiny indirect link to a horrific scandal of that size was enough to spark expensive crisis. Public relations strategists and corporate lawyers immediately, knowing full well how fast public opinion can turn when such high-profile behind the closed doors of the royal palace, elite courtiers tasked with guarding the British monarchy had already spent years desperately trying to contain the massive fallout. Any new detail that threatened to drag them right back into that nightmare instantly. Right in the absolute centre of this unfolding drama stood Prince Harry. He had already dealt with a heavy toll of deep family rifts and intense public judgment, yet here he was somehow dragged back into a fresh storm, tied directly to the very what started as nothing more than an awkward, tense exchange at a Santa Barbara charity event. A quiet personal clash between two figures had quickly turned into a public scandal. Entire institutions and international alliances across both sides of the Atlantic Ocean, with Prince Harry. A simple friction in Santa Barbara was suddenly echoing across two continents. Stick around, because behind those palace gates a massive storm is starting to brew. As the chatter about those sharp remarks from Kevin Costner swept through Hollywood the ripples quickly made their way to a place where any reputational threat is handled with deep inside Buckingham Palace. Senior royal aides, whose sole job is guarding the crown's image, immediately began keeping what started out as typical Hollywood gossip was suddenly veering way too close to royal. In 2026, the timing for this drama could hardly have been worse. The royal family was already trying to navigate one of the most fragile periods in recent. King Charles III was quietly dealing with ongoing health concerns that limited his. At the same time, Catherine, Princess of Wales, had stepped away from public life while she recovered. With so few working royals left to represent the crown, the entire monarchy felt for the anxious aides behind the scenes. The absolute last thing they wanted, after all the horrific Jeffrey Epstein saga had spent years casting a dark, heavy. Prince Andrew and his close connection to Epstein had generated a relentless stream of headlines, vicious legal fights, and a wave of public anger that severely damaged trust in the crown. That disaster ultimately forced Prince Andrew to withdraw from royal duties. Even the slightest hint connecting another member of the family to that dark chapter kept behind closed office doors. Communications advisors were frantically evaluating how fast rumours could travel. Once an explosive narrative starts spreading globally, it can easily outgrow just the threat of Meghan Markle being mentioned in the same breath as the Epstein case. As the panic grew, the whispers inside the palace doors became much more urgent. Top legal teams, constitutional experts and senior aides began looking close. Right at the centre of these talks was a question that shook royal tradition. Could taking a drastic step like that would trigger a massive constitutional mess? Yet the very fact that this option was even being debated shows just how serious what started out as some uncomfortable, tense comments at a California charity event was now echoing. Emergency planning sessions dragged on as advisors braced themselves for a public backlash. Now an ancient, long-forgotten royal decree is quietly being pulled from the archives. Deep inside the royal offices, anxious advisors are debating a question that used to be, and what kind of massive storm would that unleash? Stay right there. It is a century-old law that has suddenly become incredibly important once again. As the mood inside the palace offices turned increasingly desperate attention, slowly inside the quiet legal chambers and official strategy rooms, constitutional experts started reviewing the Titles Deprivation Act of 1970. It was the historic British declaration that helped set the stage for Israel's eventual. This controversial act was first introduced way back during World War I, a time back then several high-ranking noble families with deep German ties were suddenly. So to solve it, Parliament actually passed a law giving the King or Queen direct power to strip titles. That historic law set in stone a constitutional rule that remains active today. It proved that royal titles, despite centuries of tradition, are never completely safe. They can be taken away if a royal brings absolute shame to the crown. Yet the act sat quietly in the archives of British history. Scholars knew about it. Usually modern royal drama has been handled with much softer methods. Things like losing public duties or quietly stepping away from official roles. But lately, shocking headlines have pushed those limits to the edge. The brutal fallout from the Prince Andrew scandal gave the palace a perfect modern. After fierce public anger over Prince Andrew and his close ties to Jeffrey Epstein, the disgraced royal was forced to step away from public life, losing his military rank. Now that move did not officially use the 1917 Act, but it proved one thing. Right now, according to key sources whispering inside the palace walls, the panic is very. Top royal aides are quietly looking into whether they can use that exact same strategy. Rumour has it that advisors are building a massive dossier detailing every single state. Of course, this massive move will not happen overnight. Pulling out the Titles Deprivation Act of 1917 triggers a massive complex. High-level legal teams would have to scrutinise every detail to see if the situation. Plus the government would have to step in because stripping a title is a political hot potato. If things go that far, the entire drama lands right in the public eye. Parliament would take centre stage. Politicians and scholars, alongside top constitutional experts, they would clash over historical precedents. Just whispering about this potential showdown is sending massive shockwaves through royal circles. For many generations, royal titles have stood as symbols of total stability in Britain. Behind closed doors, senior palace aides have stopped just worrying and are now actively. And though no official moves have been announced yet, the mere fact that the Titles Deprivation Act of 1917 is back on the table, but behind closed doors. That century-old law from 1917 is suddenly being whispered about. If the very public who once adored the Sussexes is now pulling away what really went. Let's find out, especially now that the major industries are starting to back away. While these high-stakes legal talks quietly brew inside British palaces, another right in the heart of Hollywood where a celebrity's public image is worth way more than any. The overall conversation about the Duke and Duchess of Sussex has taken a very sharp ice. For a good few years after moving into their massive Montecito estate, Prince Harry, honestly, both Meghan Markle and Prince Harry went totally over the top with their They built an empire around media production, Securing massive multi-million-dollar deals with the biggest streaming platforms, giant media companies and agencies initially saw endless dollar signs yet those shocking public remarks made by Hollywood icon Kevin Costner. Now behind closed doors in major Los Angeles boardrooms, top executives are looking at in modern entertainment contracts, reputation is absolutely central to protecting. Deals signed between celebrities and media networks almost always include these are legal safety nets designed to protect a brand if a public figure gets For companies running billion-dollar global platforms, making a call like this is rarely it is completely strategic. If a partnership starts carrying real reputational risk, executives are obligated. Look at the Sussexes' high-profile deal with Netflix, a partnership originally The entire multi-year agreement was built around producing major documentaries and series, and various storytelling projects designed to combine their personal narrative with heavy. Back then, this deal symbolized the couple's transition from active members of the royal family. But then, as talk surrounding Costner's comments and the wider controversy kept spreading, industry top executives understood that even unverified associations could easily shift. In our fast-moving digital era, public sentiment shifts overnight, meaning companies. This situation also placed immense pressure on the powerful agencies responsible for giant firms like WME, who had been actively representing Meghan Markle's, must operate in a highly competitive arena where their own survival relies on delivery. When controversy starts to swirl around a client, these agencies have to carefully calculate the long-term impact on their broader portfolio. What made this moment so significant was the sudden shift in where the criticism was coming. For years, nearly all of the harsh and negative headlines surrounding Meghan Markle, a media landscape heavily criticized for its relentlessly aggressive coverage. Loyal supporters of the Duchess always argued those narratives were just cultural misunderstandings. This time the criticism was coming from deep inside Hollywood itself, and Kevin Costner. Instead, he was a highly respected figure within the exact industry the Sussexes. His voice carried massive credibility among producers and investors, and the powerful executives who decide the fate of major projects. If the elite entertainment community began to view the Sussex brand as a dangerous lie, the carefully built California enterprise that financed their entire post-royal identity. But as the Hollywood mood quietly shifts, an even deeper question begins to surface. If the Sussex brand is and where does Prince Harry truly belong, a lonely prince standing between two different worlds? As deep uncertainty kept growing around the Sussexes, standing in both British, public attention gradually shifted toward the man at the very centre of it all. He now found himself navigating an incredibly complicated personal and public moment. Observers began noticing a clear pattern emerging during the early months of 2020. Unlike in previous years when almost all of Harry's public appearances were tied to Meghan, the change was quite subtle at first, but it soon became impossible to ignore. One of the clearest moments happened during public events connected to the iconic Invictus, the global sporting competition Harry founded to actively support wounded and. The Invictus Games is an international sporting event built for injured military veterans. As Harry, a proud British Army veteran himself, travelled to Canada to promote the next, press cameras captured him engaging with athletes, military families, and in those exact moments, Harry seemed to fully reconnect with the specific role. He spoke with absolute confidence about personal resilience, mental recovery. Before long, another high-profile appearance followed thousands of miles away. While on a key humanitarian visit to Angola, Harry teamed up with local organizers. This mission carried deeply emotional symbolism. Decades ago, his mother, Harry's physical presence in Angola seemed to echo that legacy, reminding people everywhere of the dedicated charity work that once made him one of the. Yet these solo outings also highlighted a much deeper simmering tension around the prince. While Harry chose to focus strictly on duty and humanitarian service, The massive storm of controversy surrounding his wife Meghan Markle still dominates. Each public appearance forced him onto a tightrope, trying to balance two entirely different. On one side, he had absolute loyalty to his wife and the sun-drenched California. Meanwhile, fierce debates raged across Britain. People openly questioned For Harry himself, this situation meant facing a deeply painful personal crossroads. Once his entire public identity stood firmly inside the palace walls. His deep bonds with wounded veterans had carefully shaped his reputation as a prince of... But recent massive life decisions pulled him into an entirely new reality of high-profile Hollywood deals and elite celebrity networks. Those two worlds, the massive media empire Harry and Meghan wanted to build in Montecito, relied on but with harsh criticism mounting in both London and Los Angeles, that fragile balance. And once Kevin Costner issued his surprise intervention, massive shockwaves leaving many quietly wondering if this exact moment might actually trigger a much deeper, more permanent turning. So what is your take? Did Kevin Costner's move trigger Hollywood's cold shoulder, or is a much bigger twist playing out right now? Tell us exactly what you think. Remember to share this video and hit subscribe.